Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Lauren Mendelsohn, the host of Our Strength Within, where I continue to build a community of people who struggle with invisible illness like myself. I've invited my Aunt Jamie here to share a little bit more about herself, her story, and the involvement you have with the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. So thank you.
My pleasure. It's great to be here with everyone, and I'm excited to share my story for your listeners.
Okay, so for the people who don't know you, share a little bit more about where your journey started and what's brought you here today.
Sure. So my story, like so many of you likely on this call, started years ago. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, actually ulcerative colitis, when I was 22, and I'm almost 50. So I've been living with ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease. My disease state, for those of you familiar with the illness, is considered indeterminate. But my journey with this disease has been for over 2 decades. So I had graduated from college, was about to start my master's. All of a sudden, I wasn't feeling 100%. Realized that something was off. I wasn't ready to recognize it. I was actually living my best life in Montana, spending my summer working at a resort and having lots of fun with friends. But I knew something was off. My father, your grandfather, is a physician. I let him know that my stomach had been upset. And he suggested I see a GI. So I went to the doctor, was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, and that really started the last more than 25 years of living and coping and thriving and surviving this disease.
So at 19, I was diagnosed with epilepsy, like many of you know. What was it like when you were recently diagnosed at such a young age? Mm-hmm. How did your life change? Was it hard?
Yeah, so I was 22 when I was diagnosed. It was a big change for me. I'd been healthy my whole life, super active, and all of a sudden I was diagnosed with what was considered a chronic disease. I went on a lot of different medications to try and get it stabilized, or actually they call it in remission with the Crohn's and colitis diagnosis. So it was a big change for me, having to be on a drug therapy regimen. Luckily, initially, surgery wasn't something that I faced, although a number of years into living with the disease, I did have a number of surgeries, and I'm still having surgeries. But at 22, again, living my best life, had graduated from University of Florida, undergrad, was starting my master's. Definitely learned some coping techniques with Crohn's disease.
What were some of those?
Yeah, with Crohn's disease, a lot of the challenges, it has to do with digestive and eating. So really, by definition, Crohn's versus ulcerative colitis is having inflammation of almost the entire digestive tract. My focus was really the large intestine, or the colon, where I had all my problems. I was going to the bathroom almost 40 times a day. Wow. So I was also incontinent. So I was dealing with a lot as a 22-year-old. Still going to class every day. I had to change how I was eating. I would find I'd fast during the day, eat in the afternoon, so I could survive my days. But still had a wonderful master's, graduated, finished my thesis and all of those things. But it was a lot to deal with. I am jealous at times of people who maybe don't have that struggle. But I think, and I've learned from your experiences with your own diagnosis and others that, thankfully are speaking about these diseases that, can be so silent, or people, when it's not visible to your labeling of your discussion, a lot of times people don't know. So my doctors used to say, you look like a train wreck on the inside, even though on the outside you look okay. So there was a lot of coping. Luckily, we've got a wonderful family that offered a lot of support, but there's a lot of people who don't have that.
That's what I was going to ask you. How important was it to have a support system? And are there resources out there that if someone's recently diagnosed and doesn't have a family like ours, mm-hmm. to go to and learn more and find that?
Yeah, I think finding, that network is really important. Finding doctors that are specialists, not generalists, that are really focused on Crohn's or colitis was key for me. Being at the University of Florida at Shands, which is a teaching hospital. So I had a really great GI, John Valentine. He's now in Utah, but he was a wonderful advocate for me and helpful. My family was great. I had a good support system with friends as well. So I definitely did not have to suffer alone, cope alone, thrive on my own. I was able to really lean on my family, whether it was help at times with going to appointments or just being kind of optimistic and positive. I wasn't the type of person that did support groups. I really don't want to hear about everyone else's issues or problems. I kind of lived my own path and journey. I actually had the mindset I would take the pills, I would be fine and not have to deal with it again. So I don't recommend for any of you to just cold turkey off your medications. I did that, and that didn't work out great.
How long into everything?
I was probably a year into therapy. Felt great. The disease had pretty much really not hindered, or I wasn't bleeding anymore, which is a big sign of Crohn's disease. I took myself off the medications, again, living my best life, but then it came back with a vengeance. So I never got into remission really again after that. The drug therapies today are much better than what I dealt with.
Because you did that, it's still with you today?
Oh, no, I mean, the disease itself, there's no cure.
Okay.
But many times the therapies that exist can put a patient into remission. And if you stay the course, many people feel, once you're in that remission, maybe you could stay that way. Although I do think there's holistic options. They work for some people. So, biologics, drug therapies, all of those aren't the answer for every person who lives with the disease. For me, the holistic approach, the drug therapy approach wasn't, really ever successful after that first kind of probably 12 months of being on drug therapy. So I've had a number of surgeries. I've seen specialists all over the country to help treat the disease. I'm a big proponent of you have to advocate for yourself. Don't give up. Find doctors, surgeons that aren't going to give up either. And I think that's been really a key to me living and thriving with the disease and having hope and wanting, to really beat it or learn how to cope with it to a level that it doesn't limit me. And I'll say from watching you with your diagnosis, my experience with myself, with my sister, even my niece that live with Crohn's disease or suffer with Crohn's disease. I will say I live a great life for those of you that have been diagnosed and are watching this. Successful professionally, successful personally, have a good support system, travel domestically, internationally. So you can live a great life dealing with these diseases, but I would say advocating for yourself, finding maybe the Crohn's Colitis Foundation can be a great resource. There's other organizations out there. I happen to sit on the board for the Crohn's Colitis Foundation.
So share a little bit more about how you're involved with the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation and what impact they make and why you support that specific organization.
Yeah, it's always been a wonderful resource for education and research to me and to the parties involved with it. It has a national footprint, which I find is really important to be able to have access to it wherever we go or wherever people are. I appreciate that. It also is very prudent in how it spends its donations. So I'm a believer that the majority of money that's given to a charity or nonprofit should go to patient advocacy, to research, versus say salaries as an example. And the organization does that very well. I think it's on the cutting edge and stays very involved with research to help find a cure and limit, hopefully future generations with having to live with Crohn's and colitis. Very involved in the Orlando community. The foundation has an excellent footprint and great leadership in this area. Yeah. So for the GI community, the colorectal community, or patients or family members, know that in the Orlando area, but also nationally, for those of you that aren't in this particular market per se, there's a lot of resources out there. They have a Camp Oasis that children that suffer with these diseases can be part of, which I think is great. You know, I'm thankful I didn't get this disease until I was in my early 20s. But, you know, children are getting it. You know, I think, you know, without the kind of maturity of dealing with it and really understanding, it's probably even more challenging for them, no less impactful on their life. That, you know, the organization does a good job supporting children as well.
And then also there's a walk coming. You keep saying footprint. I'm like, okay, there's a walk coming.
Funny. That's great.
Take Steps, April 25th.
Yeah.
We're really excited. We're going to be there. It's going to be a phenomenal event.
Yeah, so. It's wonderful. It brings the community together. It's nice having, I think, other people that are maybe sharing the same experiences or having the same fears or have had success being around that, and that opportunity to really support an organization, again, that's supporting the community. You know, living with Crohn's disease, I actually have an ileostomy. So
what does that mean for people who don't know?
So I had gotten very sick for a number of years. Blood transfusion, hospital stays, surgeries, bleeding out, that I actually had to get my colon cut out because it just wasn't behaving nicely for my body. It was causing a lot of problems. So I actually have an ileostomy, so a bag on my stomach that I pass stools through, which I'm still trying to get rid of. But, you know, when we talk about, again, invisible diseases, in a bikini, that's not so invisible. However, I do still wear the bikinis, and I'm you know, not shy about talking about the disease.
Well, I feel like, for example, if you do wear a bikini and people see it, it opens conversations for what you go through. Like how I always wear the purple for epilepsy. It's orange is for Crohn's and colitis. We're just very thankful that you take the time to educate people about what you go through, because I don't know if you deal with this, but the other day I was talking to someone about my story, and someone goes, "Oh, my sister has epilepsy." So do you share your story and find that a lot more people are going through it than you thought?
You know, I think that this is a disease that there is growing awareness of it. You know, a lot of times, you know, people are silent about the suffering they have. No one likes to talk about bowel movements or bleeding or stools or urgency or incontinence or throwing up, and that happens to be, you know, some of the symptoms that people who are living with Crohn's and colitis have to deal with. So many times they're keeping to themselves, not leaving their home, not going and enjoying life to its fullest because of some of those limitations that they're dealing with. And I find that when you are open about it, there are people who it empowers them to be able to talk about it. So Asher Group, the organization that our family owns and that I work for, every one of our emails, and I recommend this to everyone who has a cause that's important to them, every one of our email signatures within our organization, all of our staff members, team members, talks about supporting the Crohn's Colitis Foundation and gives a voice to Crohn's disease, because I think these silent diseases, these invisible diseases, bringing awareness will help those that maybe don't have the confidence or the comfort level to really be able to ask the questions until they hear someone talking about it. So I stand in at conferences, I speak on the podium, and you know, one of my last slide usually says Asher Group supports Crohn's Colitis Foundation. And I would say almost every presentation, there's someone in the audience that will come up to me afterwards and say, you know, why does your company support that cause? And I'll speak to my experience.
And people have no idea.
Yeah, no, they don't know. Yeah. Because it's invisible. Yeah. Because it's silent.
That's the whole thing.
Well, I'm not wearing a bikini on stage.
I would hope not.
It doesn't draw the questions that you might think. So.
No, it's so amazing. Yeah. And then, so we'll wrap up in a second, but where are you today? Like after decades of surgeries and living with Crohn's, like where are you today? What does the future look like?
I'm still highly medicated. No. But I know I still take drug therapies, one of the biologics, so I give myself a shot. Every 8 weeks, I'm still having surgeries. Right now, every every quarter almost, because I would like to get rid of the ileostomy. But outside of all of that, super active. I work out every day.
She's
I run,
a very
I
fast
jog,
walker.
I walk quickly. My new found love is those shaker vibration plates.
Really?
I love them for the lymphatic draining and other things. I think they're great for those of you that haven't tried it. Big fan.
I've never heard of it. What is it? Like
Your parents have one in their house.
Oh,
Ask your dad. But super active. Again, I stand at a podium and I speak for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours with confidence, even dealing with the disease. I might change my eating habits to be able to do that well, or when I'm traveling around the country, I bring extra clothes, or I bring extra, DME equipment, durable medical equipment for my ostomy supplies, my ileostomy supplies. So I've learned to cope with it. So I think for those of you that are living silently, are suffering silently, are afraid to do things, if you can push your limits a little bit. If you want some ideas, reach out to Lauren and she'll have my contact information. But there's a lot of life to live if you are able to do it. When you feel good, take advantage of it. When you feel badly, sit there, get through it, and then move on. And I think that's really been one of my best decisions I've made living with the disease, is that I do my best not to let the disease limit me. I've learned the coping techniques, and it seems silly, but to some people. But there's certain restaurants I don't like going to because they only have one bathroom. And I prefer a restaurant that has multiple stalls, so I never feel pressure, right? Or rushed, exactly, back in the day. So, there's little things like that for those of you that resonates with, that I think I've learned in my last couple decades of living with these diseases. But I live a really full life, a really happy life, and, I plan on going to Japan in December, and I'm excited about it. Any news to you?
Yeah.
But I think it just goes to show that, you can learn to live with these diseases and not let them control you or limit you, and live an amazing life. It might again need to cope with certain things and make certain choices, but that's okay. Lots of people make choices and have to make
every day's
make
a choice.
decisions.
My dad's always taught me that you wake up and it's your choice to be in a good mood.
Yeah.
It's not,
Sure.
I'm just in a bad mood. It's a choice. So we make choices every day. And so I want to say thank you for taking the time to share your story with everyone. In the comments, I'll put the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation along with Jamie and her twin sister Jill's website about...
It has some of the coping techniques and choices we made when we're traveling. The information's a little bit, I wrote it a number of years ago, but I still think with what we talked about today, likely some good tools to help people make better choices for themselves, kind of going into some unknown situations.
It's really, really helpful for people who are just recently diagnosed and need some sort of guidance. So I appreciate your time. So thank you.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you all.
Thank you again, everyone, for listening. And I'm looking forward to having another guest on episodes. Thank you.